What's going on? My name is Matt Parker and today is my absolute pleasure to be checking out this Ultra J5 Essence bass from Anaconda. But before we check out this absolutely stunning bass, please remember to like and subscribe as it really helps me grow this YouTube channel. Right, let's get back to it. Anaconda basses are the brainchild of Andrew Taylor Cummings here in the UK. Now the Essence series is their import line. You do have the Elite series, which are hand built in the UK, but today we're looking at their slightly more affordable import range. I mean, they're still fairly kind of intermediate really. They come in at around £1,400, but for that you get a kind of really comprehensive spec list. Starting off with the body, you get this really nice lightweight swamp ash body mated to an absolutely gorgeous quilted maple top. Recently, I've been saying to a couple of people who've been asking, the quilting and the flaming on the tops on Anacondas is some of the nicest I've seen recently. It almost looks kind of 3D in the way that it really catches the light, and they're just really nice looking tops. You can tell that a lot of time has been spent sourcing the good stuff for these builds. The eagle-eyed amongst you will have immediately noticed that these are single piece bridge saddles rather than one piece unit. These are actually the Sung 2 monorail system, so it's kind of one of the updated Sung models. And they're absolutely great. Now, individual bridge saddles aren't always my preference. I generally prefer like a one piece unit. But that being said, these ones are very good. You get a lot of adjustability. Obviously you can do string height, and they're lockable as well. So they kind of lock in place, which means they don't go up or down over time depending on string vibration, which is a welcome addition. I just thought as well I'd add at this point, someone on Instagram mentioned that they find it a little bit sharp. I don't. It's got a rounded edge. And to be honest, I haven't really even touched it. I can imagine if you've got a really far back bridge kind of picking technique, it might be a bit of an issue, but honestly for me, I haven't really noticed it. I definitely don't find them sharp. I just thought I'd mention it because someone mentioned it to me, but I haven't noticed it. Now, taking a look at the pickups, we've got these proprietary pickups from Anaconda. These are called the ACJ5TN pickups, I believe. What they are is a stacked pickup, so you get individual pole pieces, but they are a kind of stacked coil, which means it eliminates hum. What that also does is it gives you a little bit more output, it seems to my ear. They kind of sound a little bit brighter as well, a little bit barkier. But they're really nice, really articulate. You get a really nice dynamic response from them. And I particularly like these really wide pole pieces as well. So we've got Anaconda's own AC3TZ preamping system. Now it is a little bit different to a lot of preamps I've come across before, so I'll try and go over the control out now. So you've got master volume, a passive tone control, then you've got normal pickup blend, so neck, middle would be both, and then towards the bridge. You've got a mid control here, which is notch, but you've also got a push-pull for 250 and 800 hertz. Which is cool. And then you've got a stacked treble and bass. And then taking a look at these two switches, you've got passive and active mode, and then you've also got a bright switch here as well. So taking a look at the neck, we can see we've got this very nice indeed roasted maple fingerboard, and we can see we've got these acrylic pearloid dot markers on the face and on the side. The fingerboard radius is a very modern, very flat 20-inch radius. So this is going to be a really fast playing neck. It's certainly not going to feel that rounded vintage profile you might find on a Fender. Modern Fenders typically these days are either compound radius or 9.5 inch. So 20 inches particularly flat, actually probably nearer something you find on say like an Ibanez, for example, which tend to have quite flat necks. And coupled with that particularly flat radius, you get quite a shallow neck front to back. It certainly feels like kind of like a very fast modern C, and coupled with that flat fingerboard radius, it's a really fast, really fluid, really snappy playing experience. The bass also features a rather interesting and somewhat unique 34.5-inch scale length. What that's going to give you is a slightly higher tension on the low B, just helps that articulation without becoming muddy, but it's certainly going to feel comfortable for people who are used to a 34-inch bass, and it's not quite the stretch of a 35+-inch scale instrument. It also features a 48mm nut width, which is fairly narrow for a 5-string. We tend to find 5 strings kind of in the region of 45 to 50-inch, so it kind of sits in the middle. It feels like a 5-string jazz bass in all honesty. I quite like this nut profile. String spacing is quite nice. It's not too cramped, it's not too wide, it's just easy to navigate. Making our way to the headstock, we see we've got this matching headstock cap, which I am a huge fan of. And then flipping it over, we can see we've got these Goto GB350 Resolite machine heads. I think previously they were using hip shots, but obviously have moved over to Gotos recently. Moving down to the bottom of the neck, we can see it's 21 frets, and as always, I'm a huge fan of the heel truss rod adjustment. I've said it before, I'll say it again, I'll say it every video until it happens. I just wish that heel truss rod adjustment would become the industry standard. Alright, flipping it over, we can see it's got this really nice sculpted cutaway. Again, really nice for kind of upper fret access. And we will notice that it's got a 6 bolt-on construction. Now, we'll also notice there's no neck plate. We've got these ferrules and screws, which again, I'm just a huge fan of. Doesn't get in the way. You can kind of easily get over around the back of the neck without snagging on any kind of chrome plates and stuff. So again, just a nice touch. One of the other things I really like is this bit of the neck and headstock joint here. I don't know if you really call it a volute. It is and it isn't in some ways, but it just feels like really sturdy. Because it's quite meaty, it really lets you know when you're at the end of the neck and you kind of aren't going to overrun if you're in that first position. And while we're on the back of the instrument, we can see we've got this easy to access battery compartment should you ever need to change battery for that active preamp. Right, so there's a quick overview of the Anaconda Ultra J5 Essence series. Let's get down to some tones. So there we have it, the Anaconda Ultra J5 Essence series. Now, I really like this bass. It's a really good example of what a modern 5-string jazz bass can be. With that active preamp, really nicely voiced pickups, and solid build quality, is no wonder this is starting to become a bit of a workhorse instrument for a lot of people in the industry. I think thanks to that 34.5-inch low B, which is so prominent in that kind of worship and gospel type arena, really found its calling within that marketplace. I think thanks to its rugged design, yet quite premium tops, is kind of really nice for that worship or kind of church band scenario. Now, in the interest of fairness, I have to say I am getting paid to do this review today, but it does not affect my opinions in any way. I'm always very transparent about what I'm doing with companies, and as always, I try to be as unbiased as possible. That being said, there's not really anything I can criticize on this bass. I think it feels great. It's got a really, really nice feeling neck. That roasted maple feels so smooth in the hand, and the neck profile is really nice, especially if you're like me and you kind of like to move around the fretboard a little bit. One of the things that threw me initially is the control layout. It's a little bit different to what I'm used to. Usually I would expect kind of like a master volume, blend, and these kind of stacks and stuff aren't always in the same position as I was expecting them. But once you kind of get used to the control layout, that's not really an issue. It's just something to be mindful of. It doesn't always feel the same as kind of like a 3-band preamp that you might be used to. That being said, I really like this passive switch here, and I really like this extra bright switch because it's certainly quite cool if you're looking for a bit more tonal variety. My only complaint about this bass is actually that the machine heads, even though they're Goto, have this kind of strange rattle. I don't know if you hear it. I've not been able to get to the bottom of what it is. I've checked all the fixings to make sure they're tight. I've checked for any slack. What I think it is that there's probably a loose piece behind one of the covers somewhere. And because it's not my bass, I'm not going to take it apart to figure out which one it is. That's the only thing that I can really think to criticise. And I'm sure it's an isolated incident because I also have another Anaconda bass, which is going to be in for review soon, and that doesn't do it. I think if you're in the market for a modern 5-string jazz bass, it's definitely worth considering one of these. As I said, it really just feels a well-made instrument. Everything in terms of fit and finish is exemplary, and it just feels really solid. I can really see why a lot of musicians are turning to Anaconda as like a workhorse, do it all 5-string, because they sound great and they play great and they just feel really solid. I do up to 100 gigs a year, and it feels like this bass would be able to do that without any problems, like, you know, just string changes periodically. And yeah, it's a killer bass. I'm really glad that I've got to check one out. Big thanks to Anaconda for sending this bass through, and keep your eyes peeled because I've also got a PJ 5-string coming up for review soon. As always, I've been Matt Parker. Please remember to like and subscribe as it really helps me grow this YouTube channel. And until next time, I'll see you soon.